am angry. I'm absolutely livid at Kenzie for what she's done. All of those people are dead because of her. She did not just kill them, she ate them. I cannot imagine how scared they were as Kenzie dragged them to her hideout. I sometimes wonder if she killed them before eating them or if she just started feasting on them while they were still kicking and screaming. Most of all, I am angry because she left me alone. Like gazelle that befriends the lion, I had fallen in love with the demon. Kenzie gave me a note before she vacated the officer's body. It breaks my heart to leave you. However, I cannot take you with me. I will always be on the run. I will always be hunted. I do not want that life for you. I want to live and be happy. Please forget about me, my love. Coming back home to our home without her in it was heartbreaking. I couldn't stay. I could not afford this place on my own. I had to sell what I could and throw away what I couldn't. I left the place. I called home for years with nothing but a suitcase of clothes, some pictures and some DVDs. I had to move back in with I had to move back in with my parents. I was showered with kindness and sympathy upon my return. I appreciated it, but I needed to be alone. I spent a few days in my childhood bedroom crying, not knowing what I would do next. I know Kenzie was a killer. I know Kenzie was a killer, but I could not help but miss her still. She was the light of my life, the sun to my moon. We shared so much, only for it all to go down like it did. I miss those evil eyes of hers. I was lost without her. I had to get her back, and I found a way to do it. On an old forgotten grave sits the mansion moonlight bathed within is a spiral of tricks complete her games. Get your fix loose, you'll become hollow. When great fortune will follow, respect the spider of games, or you will never be the same. I won't go on into detail about how I found this poem, nor about how I went about finding the mention detailed within. I don't want anyone else to attempt this, it's too dangerous. I first scoped out the area during the day. The forgotten grave is a hill on a lonely stretch of road. The mansion only manifests during the witching hour and only if a specific ritual is done. Again, I will not detail the ritual here for fear of someone else attempting the game. The area looked rather nice in the daylight. I could have imagined it taking Kenzie here on a picnic. I returned that night. I will say about the ritual that it requires the sacrifice of a joint of one of your fingers. Hopefully, that knowledge will deter people. Different fingers will determine what the great fortune is. Since I came for love, I gave my joint ring finger where my wedding band still resided. My finger was throbbing as I was rhyming towards the spot. A certain what if kept intruding into my mind. What if the mansion wasn't there? What if I had performed the ritual wrong, or perhaps the legend was just a legend? I would I would have disfigured myself for nothing, but I would be back at square one. I had I passed some trees and the hill was in full view. Bathed in the light of the full moon, the mansion loomed over me. It was a wooden structure standing 3 stories tall, probably built in the 1800s. I slowly drove up to the front porch, my heart pounding in my chest. The glass of every window was broken. I could see little broken shards here and there. They had been boarded up. The door, the door stood up like as if it was inviting in the distance. I could see a few cars. They were abandoned. Many of them were old, others quite new. I could also see the bones of the first few horses scattered around. These must have been left by previous contestants who had lost the games. I stepped outside. The chill of the night air sent a shiver through me. It was my last chance to leave. I could go and never come back. However, the idea of leaving without doing what I could do, get Kenzie back, was more than I could take. I had to move forward. I stepped into the mansion. Everything was covered in the dust and cobwebs. It was difficult to breathe. The grand staircase stood before me, covered in the moth eaten rug that I think might have been red at one point. Doors surrounded me, shrouded in darkness. In the middle of the entrance hall, I spoke my wish. I wish for my wife to become human. If she is no longer needed to kill, then we should. If she no longer needed to kill, then we could settle down. There was no dramatic acknowledgement of my wish. I heard no voices. There were no wind, immediate danger, or something. This door behind me did not even shut. I looked around, not sure what I was supposed to do. I took a deep breath and started ascending the stairs. The steps creaked with every movement I made. I pulled out a low-powered flashlight. Since the windows were broke, since the windows were boarded, little moonlight came in. I shone the light around as I came to a hallway lined with doors. I assumed the game had already begun, but I didn't know what I was playing. I figured the game would make itself obvious sooner or later. I opened the first door I came to. Inside was just a standard looking bedroom. I stepped inside. I spotted a couple moth carcasses scattered about, most stuck in webs. I remembered the line in the poem, lose and you will become hollow. If I was not careful, I could share the same fate as these moths. I looked to the bed. I could see a dress lying there. It was deep, dark red with pink frills and bows. It was covered in dust, same as everything else. I walked over. The dress looked like it was that of a child. I wondered if she had been unconscious. I wondered if she had been a contestant or if she had lived here before this place was what it is now. I shone the light around, wondering if I could get any other clues about the owner of this dress. I eventually came across the small photograph. The girl had long curly pigtails and held a small bear to her chest. She was wearing the dress currently on the bed. Her cheeks were sunken in and she was sitting in an old-fashioned wheelchair. Her arms were thin as reeds. It looked like they were shattered from just the strain of hugging her stuffed animal. The bear looked pretty standard and was wearing a sailor uniform. Perhaps this was the game. Perhaps I had to reunite the rest with the bear. I explored the room for the bear. It wasn't there. I checked the closet, under the bed, everywhere. I even checked under the mattress. It must have been in the other room. I promised the dress I would bring her the bear. I don't know why, but I could almost feel the presence of coming from the dress. It felt very faint. I would say it was just my imagination, but everything just else had not been so far. Why would this? I began opening, searching for the bear. I saw a game room, a small library, a toilet, none of which contained what I was looking for. I nearly dropped my flashlight when I came across the stairs leading to the third floor. Sprawled on the step was old withered skeleton. The body was wearing the body was wearing a varsity jacket from the 50s. It was stained in blood, long since dried up. There were three vertical slash marks up the back of the jacket. I stood there staring at the body. My breaths are heavy. I couldn't imagine what had made this. I moved closer to the skeleton, half expecting to reach out to grab me, but I remained stationary. I could hear cracking from the upstairs. I backed away from the stairs, slowly shutting off my flashlight. I was in near complete darkness, with only a couple of beams of moonlight coming in from the boarded up window. Creaking was growing louder, louder, and louder. A breath, heavy breathing, heavy breathing sent shivers to my spine. I held my breath, clutching my chest in a desperate attempt to try and my silence and my racing heartbeat. I don't know what to do. I heard a loud crack. I flattened myself against the wall. Whatever was nearby was huge. I could hear the breathing above me. I nearly reaching the ceiling. I was already in the darkness, but I shut my eyes regardless. I tried to make myself as small as I could. I hopefully it wouldn't notice me. The steps were drew closer, sending shockwaves through the floor. Whatever it was heavy. I feared it would break the floor and send us cascading into the void. I thought about those golden eyes of Kenzie. I had to remember what I was fighting for. The unknown beast passed by me. I had to stifle a grasp. There was a cold radiating from the beast. I bit my lower lip, trying to make even a bit of a noise. Trying not to make even a bit of a noise. I heard a little grunt above me before I made it unnatural noise. Mama. It sounded like a child, possibly the same little girl from the photo. There was no way something this book could make a noise like that. Moreover, there was a slight reverb in the voice. It almost sounded like mechanical. It took another step before speaking again. Mama. It matched the exact cadence of before. If this was a normal voice, there would be some subtle differences. It sounded like a recording. It took another step, then another. It said that damn word over and over and over again, slowly growing more distance. When I heard the heavy steps turn a corner and get a comfortable distance away, I shined my light over a skeleton. The skull had been shattered into pieces. Perhaps the beast had stepped on it. I began to slowly ascend up to the stairs, careful to the tread of the ribs of my toes. My heart skipped a beat whenever the step would creak. When they did, I had to pause and listen to the monster's return with the flashlights off. When I knew it was safe, I continued up. It felt like it took an hour to go up those steps. Eventually, I reached another hall, yet more doors. There was a rather nice looking door at very end. Perhaps that was a master bedroom. I crept forward, peeking in each room. I saw a spiral staircase leading to the attic, an office with another skeleton sprawled over an open safe. The corpse was dressed in what looked like a 1920s gangster wear. There was an abandoned pistol nearby. The slide was pulled back, indicating that it was empty. I looked behind me, wondering if the body had some spare ammo. Perhaps I could use the gun to defend myself. I decided against it. I doubted the weapon was in working. In order after all these years, even if the guy had extra bullets on it. Besides, despite being Texan, I had never fired a gun in my life. Still, I didn't know whether to check the office or the master bedroom. The bear would probably in one of those rooms. If the girl died young, which it looked like she may have, one of those parents could have kept the year kept the bear for themselves. It seemed like a very private trinket, so I guessed it might be in the office. I heard the creaking again. I slipped into the office. I didn't risk closing the door out of the fear of creaking I didn't risk the closing the door out of fear of the creaking hinges, but alert the beast. I tiptoed over to the body and reached into the pockets. I found the familiar rectangular shape of a switchable blade. Sorry. I found familiar rectangular shape of a switchblade. I hid under the desk, holding the knife to my chest. I shut the light off just as I heard the breathing in the hallway again. I tried to breathe as quietly as I could, but my heartbeat throbbed my ears. It was so loud that I thought monster might be able to hear it. The creature had to know I was here. Uh, the floor shook again as the beast drew closer. As one of the feet fell, I hit the button on the knife. I felt for the blade, but it wasn't there. I put the hand over to my chest to try and keep myself from hyperventilating. The the creature could be heard just outside the office door. That echoing voice sent the shock through the system. I reached out slowly, feeling around the drawer of the desk. I peeked out a little. I could see a slice of moonlight shining in the hall from the open door. I took the useless switchblade, pulling it back. I loved it as hard as I could. I careful not to make a sound. The handle flew and it smacked into the hallway wall. The creature began to move further down the hall, granting me a few precious seconds. I slid the drawer open and plunged my hand in. I felt something so soft. So I grabbed it. I could feel a round ear and two marble eyes. It was a bear. I found it. I had to get out of there. I heard the beast enter the master bedroom. Now was my chance to turn the light on, but kept my hand over the light. Uh, I only let the couple thin streams light escape. I slept in the hallway. The creature shuffled around in the bedroom. I started creeping towards the stairway. I was chewing on my lower lip at this point from the stress. Then there was a silence. It had spotted me. I started rushing down the stairs. There was an explosion of sound as if the creature took chase. It was making a beeline straight towards me. It didn't bother hiding my light. I didn't bother hiding my light. I started rushing down the stairs. There was an explosion of sound as the creature took chase. It was making a beeline straight towards me. I didn't bother hiding my light. I rushed down to the steps, the or four at the time. The monster was faster than me, but it wasn't as agile. I felt the staircase shake as the creature slid up to the stop. When I finally descended the stairs, I tore down the halls. I heard the beast crash down as the base of the steps. I it was getting closer. I could feel breathing on the back of my neck. It was cold, sending shivers down to my spine. I turned the corner to the girls' room. I felt a sharp pain slicing into my calf. I did not have time to scream. I pulled myself in. The creature slid to the stop again, but the cracking from the door frame told me it had caught itself. It was about to come inside. I collapsed on the bed, placing the bear on the dress. There was silence. I looked behind me. There was a deep gash on the door frame, made up of three vertical slashes. I just like the body on the stairs. However, there was no sign of creature yet. I could feel I was not alone. I saw her in her full glory. Despite the darkness, she wore a thin dress of spider silk. Her skin was black as ink. Her joints were segmented. She had no hair on her head, but her face was dotted with many red eyes. Her fingers were long and spindly, and many threads extruded from the tips. I felt no evil coming from her, just an ancient aura that was far beyond my comprehension. She came to me, her feet making tiny clicks against the wooden floor, and bound my wound in silk. She did not speak a word, just gave me just gave me a knowing nod. My wish had been granted. I left the house and drove away from that place. I drove until I could no longer. I slept on the side of the road. When I finally got home the next evening, there was an unfamiliar car waiting me in the driveway. Someone was taking someone sitting on the hood. She looked up as I drove up. Her eyes were dark. When I got out, she came up to me, tears running down her cheeks. She was a bit taller than me, long, dark blonde curls flung over one shoulder. I couldn't see her eyes, nor did I recognize the form she took. But I recognized the pink lip gloss she wore on her first date. Kenzie and I held hands, not saying a word for a long time. There was so much she wanted to tell me, but there would be time for that later. She was only able to choke out two words that night. Thank you. We embraced never to be apart again. Although I would always miss her golden eyes, that was thankful. Although I would always miss her golden eyes, I was thankful she was in my life again. Update. Kenzie's old vessel was released from prison. It didn't make the news, but I perceived a photo of her on a beach in a red waitress uniform. On the back of the picture, written in Sharpie, was "Thank you for giving my life back." I felt a pang of guilt remembering what she had been through. I checked the logo on her shirt to see what if I could find the restaurant she was working at. It looks like she is living in California now. Additionally, the vessel Kenzie is currently in is a woman who has been in a coma her whole life. Her spirit had long since passed on to the great beyond. Kenzie and I are getting remarried soon. That was that was a very creative story. Thanks for sharing that. There's really, a roller coaster ride. Then, I did not expect the ending. So good work on the writing side.